Welcome, please be seated. We are your Unit 1 judges. I'm delighted to be with you today. My name is Tandy McConnell. I'm a professor of history at Columbia College in South Carolina, and I'll ask my colleagues to introduce themselves.
Good morning. My name is Elon Bludinger. It's my fourth year judging on the Nationals. I live here in Washington, D.C., and I chair the board of the Washington National School. I also am on the board of Great Wolf Resorts, which I think some of you may know is based in Wisconsin, so out in the Dells.
My name is Sue Leeson, and I'm really boring. I'm from Oregon, a retired Supreme Court Justice and now a federal court mediator.
And please introduce yourselves and your teacher.
My name is Quinn Feller. We are all juniors at Wauwatosa West High School.
And I'm Josh Cunninger.
Emily Myers.
Patrick McDowell.
I'm Alec Relic, and here's our wonderful superior, Mr. Chen.
Congratulations.
Well played. We are dealing with Unit 1, wherein we wonder about the philosophical and historical foundations of the American political system. And the question is, why was the history of the Roman Republic both an example and a warning to America's founding generation? Why do you think the founders chose a republican or representative government rather than other known forms of government? In Federalist 39, Wilson argues that it is essential to such a republican government that it be derived from the great body of the society, not from an inconsiderable proportion or a favored class of it. Do you agree or disagree, and why? Please begin.
James Madison says of republicanism in Federalist 39, it is evident that no other form of government would be reconcilable with the genius of the people of America. The acknowledgement of this necessity amidst the uncertainty in the aftermath of the fight for independence forced Madison and other founders to look to the ideas of the Roman Republic. They were able to use it as a model, yet they were fully conscious of its risks and limitations.
The original republic was profound in the fact that it lasted for 500 years on principles that had never before been tested. Americans saw the potential of Roman political concepts for their own country, specifically popular sovereignty, representation, and limited government. The Romans were revolutionary in giving power to the people through democratic principles, specifically voting. For the founders, there had never been a nation as successful in this respect as Rome.
When Americans realized they had no effective representation in Parliament, colonists saw the danger of lacking a political voice and redefined their country based on the concept of popular sovereignty. The direct representation of the general public in government was another concept distinctively Roman in origin, and something the Americans had seen denied them by the centralization of power in Parliament and King George III. It has remained essential to American democracy and was enhanced by the 17th Amendment's direct election of senators.
The Romans were able to control their government through limiting term length, something the Americans reflected in limiting senators and representatives to 6 and 2-year terms, and presidents to 4-year terms. While the Roman Republic is the model on which much of American government is based, the founders also looked to Rome for its cautionary lessons. They realized that republics are especially fragile and needed features which would strengthen a new American government.
The Roman Republic rested greatly on principles of civic virtue. It remained strong so long as the people were virtuous, but as aptly stated by Montesquieu, the deterioration of every government begins with the decay of the principles on which it was founded.
Once these principles were abandoned, Rome began to lose its power as a republic. Popular sovereignty was traded for a more Senate-focused government, which removed the voice of the general public. Finally, they made allowances for a dictatorship, ultimately paving the way for Caesar's takeover in the fall of the republic.
Americans saw that it was necessary to uphold the principles of their new republic, give the people their voice, and not grant the government too much power, as shown in Federalist 51, where Madison states that a dependence on the people is, no doubt, the primary control on the government, all of which were accomplished today through the right to vote, the rights to petition an assembly, judicial review, and constitutional limitations placed on officials.
American democracy has been resilient because of its ignorance of class in the face of representation. Neither the rich nor the poor, the majority or the minorities, are given a disproportional amount of power.
When James Madison declared that it is essential to such a government that power be derived from the great body of the society, not from an inconsiderable proportion or a favored class of it, his thoughts were a reflection of those of Cicero. In a republic, this rule ought to be observed, that the majority should not have the predominant power. To play favorites is certainly something that will wreck a country.
Court cases may be decided that go against popular opinion, such as Roe v. Wade. Laws may be instituted that some don't agree with, like the Defense of Marriage Act, and questionable actions may be taken, as seen in Executive Orders 9066 and the Patriot Act. But It is ultimately the people who are given the power to reign in the government when it oversteps its bounds. To favor one faction will mean that all others are neglected, creating an unstable and volatile situation.
Today, we view the revolutionary period with awe and wonder at how they could create the long-lasting and outstanding government by which we have governed ourselves for over 200 years. The founders, however, were amazed by the greatness of the Roman Republic and strove to replicate it in the most effective and useful way possible. As stated by Thomas Jefferson, the Republican is the only form of government which is not eternally at open or secret war with the rights of mankind. This concludes our statement, and we are now ready for your follow-up questions.
Thank you. You speak a great deal about the obviously borrowing a great deal from Rome, yet they were all English subjects and had thought of themselves as British for most of their lives. They certainly would have known that a century before, King James I had argued that only a monarch who was responsible to God, not to the people, could guarantee the liberty of all subjects, not just the majority. Was that at all attractive to the founders, and why did they reject it?
They rejected that because during the Renaissance, the divine right of kings, that whole concept of the power to rule coming from the gods, was rejected through science. So that argument was useless to them. They looked back to Rome, which they saw as a successful republic, and they were tired of a monarch. So they decided that they needed to try a new form of government, something that they thought would work for them, not something that some old king had told them to do.